Once upon a time, I was a liberal. I am now walking away. Good evening, Patriots. Welcome once again to another episode of Walkaway with Brandon Straka. Here we are, and tonight's episode is going to be amazing. We've got a lot of really cool stuff to talk about, and I love my guests tonight. So tonight we're going to be featuring. We're going to be having a lot of conversation about liberalism in academia, and this is something that I find really, really interesting because it's been a hot minute since I graduated from high school. We're just going to leave it at that. But it's been a second or two. But things have really, really, really changed since I was that age. I mean, they've changed so much. And, you know, we hear this all the time about liberalism and liberal indoctrination in schools. I mean, is it true? How much truth is there to it? How much is actually going on? And what impact is this having on young people who are being educated in American colleges and institutions. And we're going to be talking a lot tonight about affirmative action as well. So both of my guests tonight are young people. And one of them actually attended Evergreen College, which is really, really something that fascinates me because for those of you who don't know, there was a huge debacle, which we're going to get into later in the show at Evergreen College. And that incident was actually hugely instrumental in my own personal red-pilling experience. But we're going to get into all of that later in the show. First, I want to make a few announcements and let you know a few things. So, Walkaway campaign. We are so excited about something that we have going on between now and the new year in the Walkaway campaign. So, we've come out of this really, really sort of stressful, arduous midterm election season. You know, it's just been nonstop division, animosity. People are at each other's throats. The liberal media won't let up. They're never going to let up. They're not going to let up for the next 6.5 years. Where are we at right now? 2018, 6 years. We've got 6 more years of Trump. And they're not going to let up. It's going to be terrible. We all know it's going to be terrible. But we decided at Walkaway that we need at least a brief respite. We need a moment of peace. People need to be able to take a breath, get over, you know, the trauma of yet another election season, and it's time for Americans to come together. So we thought between now and the new year, we want to do something to give people kind of a break, something lighthearted, something that's non-political, non-partisan, and we've come up with something that we're calling hashtag Walk It Forward. And what hashtag Walk It Forward is we're essentially encouraging all Americans, despite political affiliation, despite backgrounds or beliefs, to just come together in unification and acts of kindness, intentional acts of kindness, and ways that we can all make the world a brighter place, that we can all sort of make each other's day. So we've taken the month of December, and each of the 4 weeks in December, we split into a different theme. The first week, we're going to be basically engaging in acts of service. Now, this can be anything from using skills that you have. If you're like I'm a stylist, and I've decided that I'm going to seek women in need. There are different organizations in New York City that sort of help to empower women who are trying to get back on their feet. A lot of these are women who have either maybe are coming out of domestic violence, or maybe they have had financial hardship of some kind, but are trying to get back on their own 2 feet. Maybe they have children. They're trying to get their family back on their feet and are trying to get back into the workforce. So some of these organizations help these women out by providing them with job interview skills, providing them with wardrobe to wear on job interviews that maybe they wouldn't be able to afford. And so what I want to do is step out of my current role that I find myself in as Brandon Straka, founder and leader of the hashtag Walkaway campaign, and step back into my old shoes of Brandon Straka hairstylist and help out some of these women in need by volunteering my services as a hairstylist to either give haircuts or color or styling to any of these women who are trying to get back on their own 2 feet and get, empower themselves by getting back into the workforce. So that's one thing that I'm going to be doing. anything that any of you all can do, and this can be like small acts of service too. I mean, helping out, listen, help a little old lady cross the street. You know, if you're so able, go over and shovel your neighbor's driveway. Help out at a shelter. Help out. There's so many things that you can do. And if you go to walkawaycampaign.com, we've put suggestions up there for things that you can do. The second week, I'm really looking forward to, because this is where people can get creative. It's make someone's day for $5 or less. So the goal is to try to make a complete stranger's day for $5. And you can buy somebody a cup of coffee, or like pick up somebody's tab maybe at, you know, the store or something like that. This is where it's all about your creativity. So find the most clever and creative ways to make somebody's day for $5. The third week, we're going to be engaging in ways that we can help our military service people. People on my team have recommended buying a Christmas tree for a military family, or, you know, volunteering at a veteran, a service that helps our veterans. So many different things that you can do. In the fourth week, we're going to engage in acts of love and kindness towards a child or children in need. So what we want people to do is take pictures or videos of anything that these different acts that you're engaging in, upload them to your social media, and use the hashtag #WalkItForward and the hashtag #WalkAway. So these are the 4 different weeks, and we have a video that I put out this week that really sort of kicks off the hashtag #WalkItForward initiative. James, do we have that video that we can show the people?
Hello, Americans. It's me, Brandon Strock, founder of the Walkaway campaign. We at the Walkaway campaign want you to know that we understand it's been a long, exhausting, arduous midterm season. 2018 was a rough year, and 2017 wasn't so hot either. 2016 was worse than 2017. And 2015 was actually kind of a nightmare. Okay, things have been dicey for a while now. There's been too much division, too much hatred. It's time for Americans to come together. Not to worry. The Walkaway campaign has got you covered. My team and I put our heads together and we thought, what is the best way we can bring Americans together after this rocky midterm season? The Walkaway campaign is putting forth what we are calling the hashtag #WalkItForward initiative. This is a nonpartisan, non-political initiative encouraging Americans to come together to demonstrate love, kindness, and unity to as many people as possible during the month of December. We've broken the month of December into 4 weeks, with each week having a different theme with things that you can do and ways you can get involved to hashtag #WalkItForward. Week 1, engage in an act of service for an individual, a group, or for your community. Week 2, make somebody's day for $5. Come up with a clever or creative way to make a total stranger's day for $5 or less. Guys, come on, this is supposed to be wholesome. In week 3, we're going to be showing our thanks and appreciation to our military service people. And in week 4, we're going to find ways to show love and kindness to a child or children in need. I got so excited about hashtag #WalkItForward that I ran in my room and cleaned out my closet. Oh, it doesn't count if you only give away stuff you don't like anymore. You've got to give away stuff you like too. But I mean, some of this stuff, wow. So here's what you're going to do. You go to walkawaycampaign.com, and there you're going to find more information and ideas and suggestions for each of the different theme weeks for hashtag #WalkItForward. And for the entire month of December, we're encouraging everyone to get out and engage in acts of kindness and take pictures and take videos and post them on your social media using the hashtag #WalkItForward and hashtag #WalkAway. It's time to put aside division and put aside hostility. It's time for Americans to do what Americans do best. We're going to put our differences aside and we're going to come together. This holiday season, we're all going to unite and hashtag #WalkItForward.
That's so cheerful. I love that. So yeah, so that is hashtag #WalkItForward. And we really, really want to encourage you guys to get involved. I really did clean out my closet. And in fact, the clothes are still sitting right there on the floor. They've been sitting there for like 2 days since I shot the video. Anyway, but tomorrow I'm going to pick the clothes up off the floor. I'm going to put them together nicely and neatly. And I am going to walk them to, I think, the Bowery Mission. I used to live on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. Now I'm in Harlem, but there's a Bowery Mission right by both of the places where I used to live. So I'm going to walk my clothes to the Bowery Mission tomorrow. If they'll allow me to, I'm going to shoot a little video of me giving the clothes to the people, let them say hi and give you a warm, heartfelt a holiday cheerful message. And then I'm going to upload it with the hashtag walk it forward. So we're going to get this thing kicked off. Let's just come together. We can all start hating each other again on January 1st. Like, listen, all you have to do is just suspend your hatred for 1 month. And then January 1st, boom, that hatred will still be there. We can all go, we can pick up right where we left off. And you're so stupid. No, you're so stupid. You're a libtard. You're a Trump-tard. It'll all be waiting there for us in 2019. We can pick right back up. Okay. The other thing I want to talk to you all about, please, is that if you like and support what we're doing here with the Walkaway campaign, if you like my show, if you like the videos I'm putting out, if you like having me go on the road and do speaking engagements like I'm doing tomorrow, I'm jumping on a plane tomorrow to go to Denver, Colorado. I'm actually joining my new friend, Dinesh D'Souza, who I think I've actually hung out with more than probably anybody else this entire year. I met Dinesh over the summer, and we've now hung out like 5 or 6 times in the last 6 months. He came to the Walkaway March on Washington and very graciously spoke at my closing brunch ceremony, and he was incredible. I think it was one of the key highlights of the whole weekend. People were talking about it, still messaging me about it. I mean, it was like a total dream come true for a lot of people to get to meet Dinesh D'Souza. But anyway, I'm heading to Denver to do a speaking gig with Dinesh. And then I'm jumping on a plane straight from Denver to DC to speak at the American Priorities Conference. And so if you guys love what I'm doing, if you like the show, if you want to help out, please consider being a patron of my Patreon account. It really helps me out. I made a decision to not draw a salary from the Walkaway campaign. As we speak, we're trying to structure the organization into a 501c3, and we think we're also going to be a 501c4. I have members on my team who I would like to move out of volunteer positions and move them into salaried positions, but I myself, it'll be a while until I intend to get paid from the Walkaway campaign. So what I want to do is just sort of be able to make my living off my Patreon account. And so if you would like to be a patron of my Patreon, go to patreon.com/the-unsilent-minority. And listen, even a contribution of $5 a month, that's like 1 Starbucks coffee, they add up and it's hugely helpful and allows me to be able to travel, allows me to be able to produce the show, allows me to be able to do all videos and all these different things that we're trying to do to get the message out that it's time for people to walk away. Boom. Let's get into the show. I'm super excited about my guests tonight. So my first guest in her official position is the Millennial Policy Advisor to the America First PAC. And okay, I asked her if she wanted me to mention who her dad was, and she was like, you don't really have to, but I don't know how not to, because I was just talking about him. She's Dinesh D'Souza's daughter, but she's awesome. This girl's awesome in her own right. And I need you to know that I saw her video. She just did a PragerU video that I thought was so interesting. The subject matter is so interesting, and it's such a great video. She did such a good job. And as soon as I saw it, I called her up on the phone and I said, Danielle, I want to have you on my show so we can talk more about this, because what it's really about is, again, we're talking about identity politics and how this is affecting academia and school liberalism, how this is affecting our colleges, our universities and institutions, and affirmative action, which is a really it's a contentious topic, I think, for a lot of people. People are of 2 very different schools of thought on that. And so I want to dig into all of it. But before I do, I'd like to show you Danielle D'Souza Gill's PragerU video. Can we take a look at that, James?
There is active racial discrimination going on at Harvard right now. We tend to think of discrimination as something of the past that doesn't go on anymore, but it is going on in the most egregious way at our top schools. Harvard is actively discriminating against Asians, and we have seen this in a 2013 report which Harvard tried to get rid of. In that report, we saw that they marked Asians collectively as a group as having less positive of personalities, as being less likable and less kind. This is absurd because there's no such thing as an Asian personality. Each Asian is an individual and has their own personality. Each Asian should be treated as such. Harvard even says, abandoning race-conscious admissions would diminish the excellence of a Harvard education. Well, I'm sorry, Harvard, but that kind of admissions policy is not excellent. It's actually racist. And people should be accepted into Harvard based on their merits, not based on their race. So why is the media not outraged about this? If this were to happen to black people, if let's say Harvard was claiming that black people were not as positive of a group as other people, of course they would be outraged, and rightly so, because racial discrimination against anyone is wrong. I'm Danielle Gill for PragerU. Please like, comment, and share this video so that more people can see the racial discrimination going on at Harvard right now.
So please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Danielle Gill. Danielle, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
You're so welcome. It's great to be talking with you. And so I saw your PragerU video, and I loved it. And I love the subject matter. I think it's very, very interesting. Can you start off by kind of telling us what compelled you to speak on the subject matter in the first place?
Well, I think that not enough of the media is covering this issue. There are some articles out there on this, but there's active racial discrimination going on. And so I really wanted to bring this debate back to the forefront, and I wanted to highlight this key issue because the fact that they tried to kill this 2013 report, that Harvard tried to do this, is really egregious. And so I think it's an issue that we all need to be discussing, whether you're on the left or the right. We should all be against discrimination.
Now, when you say they tried to kill this report, are you talking about the media or are you talking about Harvard?
Harvard.
Harvard tried to kill the report, which is so interesting because now they're the subject of a lawsuit now.
Yes.
Which is like a class action. Is it a class action suit, I believe? It's a group?
Right. It's the Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard. So.
Okay, right. And so essentially there's James, I don't know if you can put up on the screen, we have, there was an article in the New York Times that sort of highlighted a specific student. Yeah, this guy here. And so I'm reading this article, and this poor guy, I mean, he's talking about how, you know, he worked so hard and academically he excelled. He had like a perfect 4.0 or higher grade point average. He had almost perfect scores on his SATs. He has all these incredible extracurricular activities that are a part of his resume. And then he doesn't get admitted to any of these Ivy League schools that he applied to. But then what he found was that other classmates of his, of other races, with lower grades and lower test scores are getting into these schools that he applied to that he couldn't get into.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, he's just one of many. Of course, there is no guarantee that any one person is going to get into a particular school. But the fact that this is a huge trend, the fact that, you know, Asians have to get over 100 or so points higher than even a white student in order to get admission into a certain college is really crazy. And the fact that Harvard uses a personality as a way to ding Asians is just ridiculous, because there is no such thing as an Asian personality. And so I think Harvard, they definitely have the right to use SAT scores, grades, recommendations, extracurricular activities, but the personality thing is really kind of crazy, especially when they're judging a group as a whole as having a less good of personality as other groups. So,
well, and I think you made such a good point in that video. Like, I don't understand why. I certainly could see them making comments like that about white people. I'm surprised that they would make comments like that about Asian people, but there are certainly other races of people for which the universe would burn down if they made comments like this generalizing an entire racist personality. So, I mean, what do you suppose is the reasoning behind this? I mean, what is the method here? What do you feel? Why do you think that they think that this is, first of all, important or necessary, but even true necessarily? Do you have any thoughts?
Well, I can't explain why Harvard is, or why some of their admissions officers are acting in a racist way, but I do think that it's right in line with their general attitude, which is defending race-based admissions and defending their actions. So what their general motive is in doing this, I think, is obviously harmful to Asians right now. But I mean, it's just blatantly wrong. So even if you're not Asian, I think that you can see that it's wrong that they're doing this.
Well, absolutely it is. But I mean, this is what I don't understand. Like, and this is, you know, I'm a white man, right? But I can tell you that if 100% of the attendees of Harvard were Asian or any other race, but it was based entirely off of merit, I would have no problem with that. Like, I would say, great. 100% of the student body happens to be of a certain race, but they all got in there based off of their hard work and their ability. Great. Who cares?
Yeah, and I think that, you know, something that's crazy is the fact that a lot of these colleges like Harvard have need-blind admission. So that's where they won't be able to tell if they're accepting you or not based on your economic standing. And I think that's awesome because so many people are then able to get financial aid. So I think that there should be race-blind admissions. People should be accepted to Harvard, like you said, based on your merit. And whether you're a certain race or not shouldn't be holding you back, shouldn't be, you know, preventing you from being accepted into a particular school.
Well, yeah, and this is what bothers me so much. I think, I mean, when we talk about affirmative action, I think we oftentimes focus on the people who were admitted who maybe weren't up to par in terms of skill as those who weren't, and that's sort of where a lot of the focus goes. But when I read this article about this young Asian guy who, despite having like superior qualifications, was not able to get into any of these schools that, you know, he had dreamed of getting into, I thought to myself, I mean, how morally crushing that would be for so many people who work hard. It's amazing to believe that you can work hard your entire life and that you could know there's a good chance you still won't be able to achieve your dreams, because the system is basically set up to try to create fairness across the board based off of physical appearance and identity. Nothing to do with skill set, nothing to do with intelligence, nothing to do with work ethic, but basically just how much melanin you have in your skin, what your eyes or your hair looks like.
Right, and another huge issue is just growing up. I mean, I know that a lot of people feel like there's a lot of pressure on them to study all the time, to work hard all the time. And so if you're constantly, you know, not rewarding people for hard work, then what's the result of that? Asians are then just put into a place where they're like, oh, wow, I just have to like compete even harder. And then it's like impossible because they're facing a standard that's much higher than what's being put on other people, which is very unfair.
It is very unfair. We're stressing out Asians. It's not good. It's not good.
I mean, a lot of people talk about how stressed they are, and I get that. It's very, very stressful when you are trying to beat, you know, impossible odds.
My producer, James, is Asian, and he's over there going, yes, yes. James, we're so sorry. We're doing everything we can to fix this. I see he looks stressed out right now, poor guy. Yeah, it all makes sense.
Everyone is stressed, you know, like I'm sure that other people, like everyone's stressed, but to put extra stress on people like this is just like, it's just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Now I want to read from a statement from Harvard. Because, well, okay, so let us know, Danielle. So what is Harvard's reaction to criticism on these policies?
Well, their reaction is that their admissions policy is excellent. They've defended their admissions policy, and they've said that, you know, taking away race-based admissions from their policy would give people a less excellent education. And I just wonder, you know, what is it about this admissions policy that they think is so excellent? I don't know, but that's what they're arguing. They stand by their admissions policy.
They do stand by their admissions policy, and this is one of the statements that they made. As the Supreme Court has repeatedly recognized, a class that is diverse on multiple dimensions, including on race, transforms the educational experiences of students from every background and prepares our graduates for an increasingly pluralistic world. It is and makes possible essential aspects of the college's mission. I mean, they're acting like people of different races are safari animals, and as if we're having a college experience is somehow like you're going through the wilderness with your canteen and your binoculars, like you're having this experience with creatures that you wouldn't normally ever have this experience with. I mean, these are just human beings.
Right. It's ridiculous. And it's also like, I'm totally on board with diversity of thought. But the idea that these colleges think that by accepting people of different races, they're all of a sudden going to have this huge diversity of thought is ridiculous, because these universities like Harvard are full of just, leftist propaganda. So there is no diversity of thought. And having people from different races, it's like going to all of a sudden produce a result where someone says, oh my gosh, I'm just completely different on this issue. You can all be of different racial backgrounds and think similarly on a given issue, which is clearly what we've seen in these leftist college campuses.
It's so interesting. I mean, there's so many ways that one could break this down and dissect it and pick it apart. But it's like, on the one hand, affirmative action is really just yet another form of socialism. It's another form of trying to equalize and evenly distribute to everybody what is available, whether, and meritocracy is out the window. I mean, it's really just about, this is what's available. Let's make sure that everyone gets a piece of the pie, despite how hard they've worked for it, despite any, preparation or work that they've put into it. There's that. But it's like, on the other hand, as we've established, and it drives me crazy when people on the left deny this, but American higher learning institutions are overwhelmingly liberal. I mean, to the point of really indoctrinating, I think, in some cases, and I can't wait to talk to my next guest, so we're really going to dig into that. But it's like, if we look statistically at these different minority groups in America along racial lines, typically they tend to vote Democrat. They tend to vote liberal. So it's really, once again, just sort of stacking the deck in a way to insist and encourage that there's going to be, again, this sort of petri dish that's meant to only just grow more liberal thought, more liberalism, more left-leaning philosophies. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely trying to basically bring people to this university, indoctrinate them from leftist professors, and then people graduate who might have come in not being that political, might not have been necessarily to the left. Maybe they were conservative, but they leave as leftists. And so they're really not creating any diversity of thought on their campus. And the idea that they can hide behind this idea of, oh, we have racial diversity, well, that doesn't equate, with diversity of thought. So I think that it's absolutely going on today, right now, on these campuses.
That's what we need: affirmative action for conservatives. That's what we need. I think they should have to take in 50% conservative thinkers to colleges and universities. I mean, that would throw everything right out the window. I mean, everything would go up in flames at that point.
Diversity of thought in general. I mean, like your next guest might mention, but just libertarian thought, conservative thought, leftist, centrist thought. It's like, why can't we have a diversity of opinions on college campuses? Why does it have to be only far left?
Well, yeah, and what are your thoughts on that? I mean, why is this? How did things get this way? I mean, why do you think that this school of thought has become basically a unilateral way of thinking and teaching and learning in colleges and universities? Why is liberalism the only thing that's being taught to kids? These ideas. Do you have any thoughts?
I think it was a big problem a few decades ago. I think it was a problem in my parents' generation on campuses, but it's gotten much worse now. And I think that has to do with who are the professors who are deciding what other professors get tenure? Like who's deciding who is hired at these universities? And
right.
When there became a leftist dominance on that team, on those deciding committees, it's like it just continued. And I think the issue is kind of similar to the issue of, conservative judges and liberal judges, because I bring this up because conservatives, for example, say, well, we need to have judges that are constitutionalists. So they don't want to bring in conservative judges. We want constitutionalist judges. But the left wants leftist judges. So similarly, professors, I think, on college campuses who are conservative, they say, oh, no, we should hire this person because they have a different viewpoint than me. Like, I want to hear from liberal professors, conservative professors, but all of the liberal professors on college campuses, for the most part, say, no, I only want to bring in more leftist, more liberal professors. So we've really just been losing the game here, and a lot of conservatives are just interested in other fields. They prefer to work in business and just do other things. So unfortunately, our colleges are really run by leftists.
Yeah, I think we have to try harder. We have to work harder on that. I mean, this is actually a thought that it's just worn a little bit thin on me. I haven't been a conservative very long, but I do often sort of hear this rhetoric from conservatives that are sort of like, we've been putting up with this for years. It's kind of the way things are. I'm like, that's it. Like, where's the fight? Where's the vim and where's the, like, let's dig in our heels and push back. That's something that I want to do, particularly in this coming year. One of the goals that I have for the Walkaway campaign is that we want to take some of these amazing Walkaway speakers and stories that have come to us over the last 6 months and do a Walkaway roadshow. I mean, I really want to we want to get into college campuses and universities and talk to these kids. And I think what would be really compelling about that is that, for a lot of, these are walkaways. These are people who used to be liberal-minded people some of them were very much leftist and very much progressive, but who have seen the fallacy in these arguments, who have seen the lack of logic that's really taking place in the ideology of liberalism, and who can say to these young people, look, I used to think like you. I get why you think the way that you think. Here's what's wrong with it. Let's dissect it. Let's open it up. And I think that those points of view could be really compelling for young people who aren't getting that alternative point of view in their education.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, it's so compelling to hear another side because I'm sure, as like you've heard from a lot of people with the Walkaway testimonials, that once people start hearing something different, they're like, whoa, what's going on? It's kind of shocking. And so unfortunately, in these classrooms, it's like if you even bring up something different than what everyone else is saying, they almost are like in denial at first. It's like, it's very confusing because it just blows up the narrative that they've been believing for so long.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It is. There is a lot of denial. I certainly experienced it myself. There was when I was having my red pill experience, I went through literally months where I felt like I was losing my mind because I was just like, I couldn't mentally like accept the fact that so much of what I had believed my entire life was just based on complete illogic and fallacy, And so I think that these stories that we tell, the Walkaway stories and the information that we're trying to correct the way that history, I think, has been taught, or that our education has been taught to many of us, it has to be done delicately. It has to be done very gently because it's riveting to people. And it's just like you said. I mean, for many people, it sort of throws them into a state of denial. I think that they can't even accept what they're being told.
Right. Absolutely. And I hope that there's a way that we can infiltrate college campuses more, but it has to be from the bottom up, kind of like you were saying. It has to be more of like a grassroots movement where individuals start to say, like, no, I want to walk away, or I don't know if I think this anymore. Like, I need to question this, because it's not going to happen from top down. It's not going to happen from the professors. Like, that's not going to change in the classroom, at least.
That's right.
There's a total, system in place that, unfortunately, there's like no way to really disrupt. I mean, so it has to be from the bottom up, and I hope that a grassroots movement on college campuses can really start, because especially at universities like Harvard, there isn't like a chapter for a lot of these conservative groups. It's not.
Right.
So at other campuses, I know it's kind of happening more, but it's really, really tough in schools like Harvard.
Right. Yeah. And I think that as conservatives too, many of us have to be cognizant, I think, of our approach and our delivery, the way that we're communicating with people. And, because I think it becomes so easy, and listen, I'm totally guilty of it myself, like totally guilty. But it's like, sometimes you get in these arguments, you get in these debates, and you just become so overwhelmingly frustrated with how stupid okay, see, I'm already doing it. You just become so frustrated with, again, it's sort of that indoctrination, because they're just repeating talking points that aren't true, or they aren't logical or something, and it's like, oh, all Republicans are this, or all conservatives are this, and listen, if you want to make a compelling argument about why global warming is real, I'll listen to it. Great, let's listen. But I mean, if your argument is, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, that's not an argument. That's not a discussion, right?
Yeah,
but it's
so when people come to me with an actual argument, usually most messages I get or things, it's just like, I hate you, bad word. And I'm just kind of like, okay, well, is there something in particular that you want to discuss about my post, But unfortunately, that doesn't create too much response from them, because they're not even coming up with arguments anymore to other people, because they just point the finger at you, like, you're racist, or you're this, you're that. And it's like, if you want to argue with me about something, then let's have an actual discussion.
Right. I mean, they love to pull at the heartstrings. They love to make it about social justice and make it about values and morality. And so because they don't have an actual logical argument, and a lot of this is fed by the media. The media is, the machine, I think, that kind of keeps all of these false narratives and all of this division and bad energy going. And like right now, of course, the caravan and the border is a very popular topic. And recently, as the people down on the southern border were throwing rocks and charging the border security used tear gas. And of course, the liberal media is saying, well, they're gassing. Okay, they leave out what kind of gas, as if to like conjure up the image of like Zyklon B or something, but they're gassing women and children at the border. It's like, well, they used tear gas on people who were charging the border and throwing rocks and bottles at ICE agents. And the Obama administration did this more than 90 times. The exact same thing more than 90 times, but the media just never talked about it and never mentioned it. That's another thing. Don't get me started. Let's talk about America First PAC. You are the Millennial Policy Advisor for America First PAC. Danielle, what is America First PAC?
They are a group that focuses on swinging elections. They're focused on Donald Trump's agenda. They're focused on getting more people to vote, and hopefully vote red.
And your position is Millennial Policy Advisor. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yes. So I'm focused on getting more millennials involved, getting more millennials to show up to rallies, to not be afraid to say that they're for Donald Trump, not be afraid to think for themselves. And hopefully more people can, end up feeling like they don't have to be so afraid anymore to voice their political opinions, because as I'm sure you've heard from a lot of Walkaway people, it's very scary to say that you're Republican, and it's very scary to, say that you support a president that so many people on the left are claiming is like Hitler. So my goal is basically to say, hey, millennial, hey friend, there are a lot of us that think this way, and that's okay. So I hope that you can go on with your life and be happy, because it really does affect a lot of people psychologically, just to be hated by so many of their friends and to just be like a pariah because they were a Republican. So I'm really happy that America First is even interested in what millennials think, what millennials want to do. And so I think that they're really at the forefront of getting more young people involved in politics.
I love it. I love it. But I love how casually you say like, "Oh, my job is." I mean, that's a serious job. I hope you eat your Wheaties, because getting young people to either consider changing sides, but even the ones who are already on the right, who, I think are just afraid to come out and say so, is that's a serious challenge. I mean, that's nothing small that you're taking a bite out of. So I certainly wish you all the best with that. Yeah.
Thing with like the migrant caravan, for example, it's like, as a Republican, millennial, it's like, of course, your leftist friends are going to be like, you're a horrible person, how can you say that these people shouldn't be here? And so then I try to put out information to them saying, oh, well, okay, like we let in, as a country, the U.S. lets in more illegal immigrants than any other country. Like we let in more refugees than other countries. So
that's right.
Want to debate the number of immigrants coming in, then let's debate that number. What number do you think that is? Okay, what do you suppose that we change? Like, do you really think that open borders in general is gonna work well? And so, let's actually discuss those issues. So I want to encourage Republican millennials to focus on the facts and focus on just trying to have a discussion with people on the left. But a lot of people on the left just don't want to take part, but we're always here. We're always happy to discuss. So
I love that you just said that, because I think the debate tactic that you just mentioned, I think, is a really good one, and it's a really strong one. It's one that I have used very successfully many times. In fact, I'd say it has 100% success. If you consider success somebody screaming at you, swearing at you, and then walking away because they don't have a response, which I do. I consider that to be a total success. But no, but the tactic that I'm describing is when you're talking to someone, of course, they're like, you're a racist, or you're a bigot, you're a monster, you're against immigrants. I say, no, actually, I'm 100% for immigration. I think we all agree immigration is a good thing. We just, conservatives, want to do it legally and do it the right way. But I mean, if the idea is that we shouldn't have a problem with people entering the country illegally, that or that we should make exceptions. Well, we should make exceptions for some people who come to the country illegally. I say, okay, what is that number? Do you agree that there should be a number of people that we make exceptions for, or should we make exceptions for every person who enters the country illegally? Well, no, we shouldn't make exceptions for everybody. Okay, well then what is the number? What is the number? What do you mean? What is the number?
And also the idea that there are so many people far away from the U.S. that are suffering, that are really in dire situations, and maybe they have a right to be here more so than people who are at our border throwing rocks at our ICE agents. So it's like, okay, well, maybe we should let in more refugees, but there are some serious crises going on around the world, and so our border patrol, and they need to be respected, and we should really stand by them. I mean, I don't know how you can advocate for lawlessness, but it seems to become a big thing on the left, is to advocate for lawlessness, and how the left wants to reward people is basically, okay, if you do something bad, you should come live here. Like,
right.
I don't understand that argument, but it's very common.
Well, they're living in a fantasy, though. I mean, it's this fantasy where I blame it on the Cosby Show. I think that all of this is happening because of the Cosby Show. I'm going to tell you exactly why. When we were growing up, you're too young, but when I was growing up as a kid, we would watch the Cosby Show every week, and like every week, oh God, they were just like so fucking rich. It was just unbelievable. But like every week they were having some party for something. It was somebody's birthday or whatever. And it was always like Lena Horne was there and whatever. But anyway, they'd all be sitting around the table, and it was like 15 people, and everyone, there was like one person of every race and nationality around the globe, and they were super charming, and they all had very charming stories to tell about their native countries and their homelands and stuff. And it left all of us with the impression that people from around the world are much more charming than Americans are, and that we should always, like, that all immigrants are charming and they're all good-natured people and they all want to come to America and stuff. And that is true in a lot of cases. There, of course, like, listen, I live in New York City. I have a lot of friends who are illegal immigrants. It's cool. Like, I get it. I totally get it. But the fact of the matter is, there are a lot of people who come in this country because they're escaping a criminal past, or they're bringing in drugs, or they're committing crime when they get here. Some of them are MS-13 gang members. Some of them are really good-hearted people who are carrying diseases with them. This is why we have policies at our border. Somehow we're talking about immigration now, Danielle. I don't know how this happened. I'm sorry.
Well, it's a big issue. It's a big issue. And it's just crazy because a lot of young people just want to focus on, a photo of a child at the border and then just say, okay, well, I win the argument. This is my trump card, Like there's
Literally
person suffering. And it's true that there are a lot of people in the world suffering. There are a lot of people in our country suffering. And so,
absolutely,
of course, we should all end suffering. I love your campaign to, do an act of service. I am going to swipe people in the Metro card, and
that's great.
Do something, but yeah, I think that the idea that Republicans don't care about other people is really something that we're focusing on debunking that myth. It's like we want to help people. We want people to have a good life and be happy. And the way they can do that is by, voting for policies where people can then rise up out of their situation and have a better life. And with more immigrants, and you have to be legal and all of that. So
and
it gets out because the left doesn't own, being a good person.
Right. And, just this conversation that we're having right now, which I understand we kind of veered off topic, but these are interesting conversations that people need to hear, and they need to hear them in colleges and universities. You and I are having a discussion right now that probably would never take place in any classroom or university or college, because I think that the accepted school of thought these days is let people in or you're a racist. And we've got to change that.
Yeah, and I'm sure people on college campuses right now discuss the migrant caravan, but it's definitely not in terms of, well, how can we have legal immigration? How can we, change these numbers? It's definitely not that. It's like you said, it's just the trump card of, oh, well, this is sad, so we have to let it run.
Well, Danielle, I love what you're doing, and I love that you're speaking out. I love that you're a young conservative voice and that you're trying to empower other young conservatives. I think that is really where the future is for us as conservatives, because at the end of the day, if we're just looking at logic and reason and straight policies, it's really the conservative way of thinking that it just makes more sense, and it makes more sense for everybody. And it's really about freedom. It's really about freedom. I mean, the Constitution, I think, was put into place to ensure that people would be free, to ensure that people could empower themselves and change their lives by working hard and by, through the merits of what are available to us as Americans. So I just love what you're doing, and I love your idea about swiping people on the subway for the hashtag Walk It Forward. I'm going to steal that from you.
Walk It Forward. I will have to somehow get a video, downstairs in the subway. But I love that.
It.
So I hope everybody walks it forward, because December is the month that we should be focusing on helping others, acts of service. So
that's right. That's right. Danielle, you and I are going to keep in touch because we're friends anyway. And I think that we'll be connecting. There'll be many opportunities for us to connect in the future to work together as we do, say, the Walkaway Road Show, or you're going to be one of my millennial points of contact, because as I established earlier in the show, it's been a hot minute since I was a millennial. God, I have actually a birthday coming up, and just
I'm on the border. I'm almost a Z generation, so I'm between the Y and the Z. But regardless, all Ys, all Zs, they need to hear other points of view. They need to walk away. So focusing on getting that message out. So
I love it. You're welcome. And thanks for coming on tonight. And you and I are going to be, we'll definitely be keeping in touch and connecting in the future. So thank you for everything that you had to say about educational institutions, about affirmative action, about identity politics, and racism, really, racism in our educational system. And these are things that we need to address as conservatives going forward. And these are things that need to be changed. Thank you so much, Danielle D'Souza Gill. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Have a great night, Danielle. All right, so we're going to take a quick break by watching a video, and I'll tell you a little bit about the video that you're about to see before we do it. So one more thing that we've had a busy week with the Walkaway campaign. We have been busy, and I want to give a special shout out to two people on my team, Justin Buchanan and Sharon Black, for working so hard and so diligently on creating the Walkaway campaign state groups, which we now rolled out this week. They've done an amazing job. They've created 54 groups, so obviously one for each state. And then I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know what the other four are for. I know one of them is Puerto Rico. I think they did like the Virgin Islands. I have to ask them about this because I don't know if people are who's walking away from the Virgin Islands. I think everyone, don't we want to walk to the Virgin Islands? I don't know. James says yes. But I think that, so they've created 54 groups, which are designated for each state and then a couple regions. And these state groups are going to be amazing. You guys have been asking for them for a long time, and now they exist. This is on Facebook. For those of you who are not Facebookers, you really should join the hashtag Walkaway campaign main group. You have to join the main group if you want to be a member of one of the state groups. So that's a prerequisite. So join the hashtag Walkaway campaign group, not business or fan, but group page on Facebook. And then you can join, you can find the information to join your state group. What are the state groups for? Well, we've vetted and trained leaders in each state and divided them into regions. And this is going to be for marches and rallies and meeting events that can happen within each group. This is going to be for fundraisers and local elections and local initiatives and campaigns that are happening in your state. This is going to be for when I do speaking engagements and stuff. When I come to your state, they can help organize this and get the word out. When the Walkaway Roadshow goes to your state, the state groups are going to be organizing, promoting, getting the word out. When we do galas and fundraisers, it's going to be a lot of really cool stuff. And if you guys want to do meetups, and if you want to just talk to each other within your groups about things that are going on locally that don't necessarily affect the rest of the country, but these are issues that are important to you, it's going to happen within those state groups. So without further ado, let's take a look at the video that we created this week for the Walkaway campaign state groups. Let's roll it.
Patriots, you've been asking for it, and today you're gonna get it. The Walkaway team has been working tirelessly behind the scenes to create some amazing new initiatives, and I'm so excited today to make a few announcements. We are finally ready to announce the official Walkaway campaign state groups. It's taken us a while to source and train state leaders, regional leaders, to create rules and guidelines, and to create 50 groups, but we did it with a ton of help from these amazing volunteers. A huge thank you to all of them. We have exciting things in the works for these groups, and we want to give people more opportunity to get involved at a local level. We will be posting the official state group directory and pinning it to the top of the main page so that you can find your official state group. We want to keep the Walkaway campaign main page for our testimonials, but within the state groups you'll be able to find and create posts for local issues and news articles that affect your state, as well as information on Walkaway gatherings, meetings, voter registration, marches, rallies, and all of my local appearances. Please make sure that you read all the rules and guidelines prior to posting in any of these groups. And remember the core tenet of Walkaway. Please be respectful to each other in these groups. These state groups will be instrumental in many of our new initiatives. As such, I want to announce something huge. We are going to take the Walkaway campaign on the road, and we are planning to make stops all across the United States to continue spreading the Walkaway values, patriotism, and how we can make a difference together. The roadshow is going to be amazing, with Walkaway members telling their stories, celebrities and musicians telling theirs. Imagine a traveling version of the Walkaway March and Rally coming right to your state. Stay tuned for more details about this. We thank you for your patience. We know you've been waiting for this for a long time, so enjoy your state groups, Patriots.
I'm online right now reading the comments, and people really like my hat. Like a few people are like, oh, I love the state groups. But like 90% of the people are like, I love your hat. One person called it a sombrero. That's not a sombrero. That was just a cowboy hat that was really sparkly. And as a matter of fact, I think it was actually a women's cowboy hat. I went to Nashville, Tennessee to do the Huckabee show. And I decided that since I was in Nashville, I was doing Huckabee, I wanted to dress like a cowboy. So I went to a cowboy store and I bought boots and a belt and a hat. And of course, I was like, I had to have the sparkly hat. And I went up, like these cowboys, these are like real cowboys in Nashville. This is like the real deal, right? So I go up to these like butch, like they're like, how can I help you today? And I'm like, can I have the hat with like the sequins and the bedazzles and stuff? And they were just like, sure, I'll ring it up for you. I don't know. It felt a little bit awkward, but listen, the hat looked great. Obviously, you guys love it. So I win. All right, let's get right into my next guest. I'm so excited. Is he paying attention? There he is. Okay. I saw he's kind of like looking off. I was like, oh, I don't think he's with us anymore. All right, so I'm really excited to talk to Dylan. Okay, and here's the deal. So, one of the sort of, and you know what, I'm going to get into that when I talk to Dylan, because I want to talk about it's Evergreen College and how impactful it was, even on my own experience walking away from liberalism. It's a crazy story. For those of you who don't know, Evergreen College, I believe it's in Washington. Dylan, can you give me a nod? Is that right? Washington State? Yes. So Evergreen College, super, super, super liberal college. And they were doing this like day without a white person day. And it just turned into this huge debacle where it just what we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it. But why don't we show a little clip from Dylan Roth's Walkaway video. I saw this the other day and I was like, I have to have him on the show. This is so compelling. This is so good. So let's take a look at a clip from Dylan Roth's Walkaway video, and then we'll have him on.
I was very liberal until I went to college. My name is Dylan Roth, and I was born into the liberal left. Being a liberal just seemed to be the normal and conscientious way to think. My mother raised me to always side with the Democrats, but honestly, I never really knew what that meant. I was pro-abortion and supported other progressive views, including universal health care, free education, and equal distribution of wealth. I was convinced that conservatives in the Republican Party were bourgeoisie white supremacists that only served the interests of white wealthy men. I simply never questioned any values that strayed from perfect alignment with the Democratic Party. It just seemed that values like fairness and equality made perfect sense until I had my red pill moment.
Fuck you and fuck the police!
We are here to support. We want to dismantle anti-blackness campus wide.
What got me thinking differently about politics started with the widely reported uprisings at my former school, Evergreen State College. If you don't know the story, last year Brett Weinstein, a school biology professor, spoke out against Evergreen's Day of Absence, an annual event that required white people to leave campus for that day. The stated intention of the Blacks Only event was to spread an anti-racist message, designed to educate white people about what people of color experienced as a result of discrimination and racial segregation in America's past history. What Evergreen's administration apparently didn't realize is that they were attempting to fight racism with identity politics by discriminating against white people. Weinstein wrote a complaint to the administration, correctly pointing out that the Day of Absence was clearly racist. To my surprise, Weinstein was immediately targeted by all of the SJWs on campus as a white supremacist, neo-Nazi bigot. While at the time I was very liberal, this personal attack on the previously well-liked professor practically shocked me into the realization that the radical left had values that are hostile and full of hate.
Hostile and full of hate. Yeah, so let's talk, ladies and gentlemen, welcome please Dylan Roth to the show. Dylan, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you, Brandon? Thanks so much for having me.
You're very welcome. I love your video. I'm upset that we even had to cut it short just then. I could watch it again and again because it's very compelling. You did a very good job putting it together. I'd like to kind of start at the beginning with you, and we'll get to Evergreen in a minute. But let's let everyone know, first of all, where were you born and raised?
So I grew up here in New York City, and I would probably consider this my stomping grounds. But I was born originally in Mexico City under a U.S. birthright, because my mother was a diplomat for the Dominican embassy, because she's a Dominican citizen, a French citizen, a U.S. citizen. So I didn't, I don't have Mexican citizenship, but I have the U.S. birthright from being born there. But we moved when I was about 2 here to the States. So I grew up in the city, but I've also lived in the state of Florida. I've also and I went to Evergreen in the state of Washington in Olympia. That was that's where I've moved around and so on.
So okay, so and tell us a little bit about your family. Like, so it sounds like you lived in New York is a very liberal city, and Florida, depending on what part you're in, is can be pretty liberal as well. I mean, what was your family like politically?
So my mom has always had, for the most part, very liberal aligning views. And my dad, I would say, growing up, for the most part, he shared liberal views as well. But after Trump's election, my dad's views changed pretty quickly, and he published a book that goes into it goes into the Trump investigation and makes a lot of interesting points about stuff that I never even knew about Trump. So he walked away in his own right, probably around that time a couple of years ago. So
okay, so your dad's views changed politically, but he went right because of Trump.
He became a Trump supporter after getting a better understanding of his role as a nationalist and how he works to oppose the globalists. And that became very clear to me after reading his book, and also after doing my own research, that I think it was just less than a couple of months ago or about a month ago when Trump came out and said, I'm a nationalist, and I don't to me, I don't consider Trump to be this traditional Republican. He's really a nationalist. So my dad became very passionate about the subject, and his book, Deploraville, is a really great read. It's pretty quick too. It's not that hard to understand, and that's his background. And I love that we were able to have such stimulating conversations about the subject. So I wouldn't say he was the person that got me into politics, but we started to have more intellectually stimulating discussions after I took a greater interest.
What year did you graduate from high school?
So I graduated actually as a homeschooler. I've been in public education for most of my life up until the end of 11th grade. And I decided, my dad and my mom and I decided that to do an unschooling process. And there's a term called unschooling, which refers to an independent homeschooling type of program where you get to decide whatever it is you want to learn, and your parents don't structure it for you. People from school are not going to structure it for you either. So I spent a year really engaging in my own personal studying and learning, and that's when I discovered my creative interests and what I wanted to do, which was to make films. And I started my YouTube channel that year, and I've probably uploaded close to, I have a second channel, but I've uploaded close to in total I've uploaded close to 40 videos since that year. That was, and I think that was probably 2016 that I finished that homeschooling year. So
okay. So with this system of schooling, how do you know when you're done? How do you know when you're ready to go to college?
Well, I received a homeschooling certificate that got me into Evergreen because as long as I had the equivalent of a high school diploma, which in the state of Florida, that is, and if you're homeschooling, they call that the homeschooling certificate. And if a college requires you to get a GED, then you go for the GED. But Evergreen didn't require that.
Do you have to take a test to get this certificate?
I had to take my SATs, and that was about it. I studied for my Mm-hmm.
Got it. I forgot about the SATs. I was like, my God, you started a YouTube channel and then you just got into college. That's like everybody's dream. That's okay. SATs.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Evergreen, they had an interesting application process where they were genuinely looking at what stuff you were doing and what interests you had, and that they considered that part of the admission process. So it wasn't just grades. And what I really respected about it and what attracted me about the school was the fact that they were fostering this independent learning system, and it was fairly easy to get in. And it seems like they wanted to bring in homeschoolers and possibly even these unschoolers as well, because it's aligned with independent thinking. So that was one of the amazing traits of the school that attracted me. But when I started to understand what the school was really about and what system they set up, even before all of these shenanigans took place, I became aware, probably with my new political interests now, that Evergreen is essentially creating a neo-Marxist type of schooling system with their sense of community and promoting these ideas of fairness and equality. And it's essentially become a barrack for socialism and the Democratic Party. And, I can't say I've done enough research on this subject to make a full conclusion, but it's also possible that a lot of these uprisings could have been planned by certain key players that, for it to unfold in this certain way. I'm not totally bought into the notion that it's completely spontaneous. So
let's not get ahead of ourselves, because the people watching don't yet know. Some of them may not yet know exactly what went down at Evergreen.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2016, yes, and this is the year that you went.
I started going in the fall of 2016.
Okay.
And then so that was when it was the fall of 2015.
Yeah.
And then I went, and then I came back. And then I came back for the fall of 2016 and spent a couple of semesters there. So
tell everybody, if you can, because you started to tell the story in your video. The campus, I get the impression that they tend to engage in these different, sort of initiatives or whatever to try to teach people lessons about,
Yes.
privilege and hierarchies and victimhood and oppression and things. And so one of these initiatives is, in the past, it had been an optional, like an opt-out day, that if you were, say, a white person or maybe a man or something like that, one of these privileged people in our culture, that you were supposed to stay home. What is the point of this again? I don't exactly get it. So that black people can be the only people on campus, right. And then everybody learns what? What do we learn again?
So the Day of Absence was an event that up until 2017, when George Bridges is the most recent president, that decided in 2017 to change how the Day of Absence would be observed. So up until then, it was an event that actually involved black people to stay off campus and give them a day off to. So that was how it was originally. I still don't see it as being any different in terms of identity politics. But in 2017, George Bridges said, now it's going to be white people that stay off campus for the entirety of one day. So,
but wait. There's more.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm pretty sure that when they had the black people opting out, it was not mandatory. That was optional.
It was optional. Mm-hmm.
Hence, opt out. All right, but what was different about this white people stay home day?
Well, it was something that was essentially required, because if you were a white student and you showed up on campus, there would be people accusing you of being a racist. And so, that you were not observing that, the day of absence the way that it was intended. So that there were definitely, I don't know if everybody responded to white people that way, but it definitely happened. There were
So there was a professor named Brett Weinstein, and he himself expressed an objection to the higher ups at the college, just saying, look, and he himself is a liberal, progressive kind of guy, right? I mean, this is not like some staunch conservative or anything. I mean, he has a track record of being a very liberal guy, but he said, look, this is wrong. No one should be telling anyone of any race what they can or cannot do based off of their race. This is not the way that this should be handled. And all hell broke loose.
Right. He wrote a complaint email when it happened, and I'm not sure how that email just got out to all of the social justice warriors on campus, but there's a video, a clip of students actually standing outside of his classroom while he was teaching a class, and he had to stop teaching to come out of the room and to talk to them, and he was basically just verbally attacked, and just people that clearly don't understand anything about what he was trying to accomplish with his email, which was just to state that this is a form of identity politics that doesn't accomplish anything. And the way that the reaction, just the F-bombs and calling him a white supremacist and a bigot and just telling him you should just get out of the school, regardless of how he was such a well-respected teacher. And now he's definitely siding with more conservative views, but he was a liberal at the time. He supported probably 90% of the stuff that people at Evergreen would support. So that was really shocking. That was really shocking to me.
Yeah, and I want to take a moment to sort of acknowledge that too, what you were saying about, because it's true, and people can go online, by the way. I don't remember if it's Vice or someone did like a 5-6 minute piece on Evergreen College. And if you just go on YouTube and just type in Evergreen College, whatever, it's going to come up. You're going to see it. But there was the swearing, the name calling, and frankly threats and intimidation from these students toward this professor. And then later they locked the dean or the head of the college in a room, and they wouldn't let him out until he met their demands. And okay, so I'm like, that never would have happened when back when I was that age. I mean, where is this sense of entitlement coming from that these young people have, 19, 20-year-old people, that they're screaming obscenities and calling names to their professors? I mean, that's insane to me.
Yeah. Well, Evergreen is compared to other socially progressive schools and liberal schools, they definitely take it to a much more extreme level. And I've seen this extremism in just about many different facets of Evergreen lifestyles, and they get extremely defensive, and you can't have any opinion that goes against their collective ideology. Now, what I noticed quite a bit was this, and like you said, the sense of entitlement that I think what this comes from, and as we delve into this understanding of what it means to have a liberal education, what that I'd like to talk about what that truly means, but also that we have this really horrible system of student loans that you become dependent on the government when you apply for student loans, and it's creating this mentality that because it's going to be very difficult to pay off these loans, we automatically enter this victim mentality, because we're just not sure how we're going to pay it off because of whatever the circumstances are, and we find all kinds of excuses not to take on personal responsibility. So we'll say, oh, let's just blame the patriarchy. Let's just blame teachers and administrators. Let's blame the system as a whole, instead of focusing on what students need to do. And I think that's definitely just in general for socially progressive schools, that they need that's how the system evolved. That's how the system of creating victim mentality has evolved. So seeing that as the roots, maybe that's the core problem that we need to be addressing as well, and why these attitudes get, sometimes are okay, but sometimes get very extreme and very violent. And I've seen cases like this at, just from videos of protests at Berkeley and UCLA and Yale, and it's really upsetting and very very shocking.
Well, listen, I if we're going to have a conversation about student loans making people violent, I'm willing to get on board with that conversation. That's if anybody who's ever the number of phone calls I've had to make to Sally Mae where I wanted to go commit acts of violence, I get, but I'm not sure that I'm buying that exactly, because I mean, this is like really next level stuff. I mean, these kids, this is like zombies, body snatchers. These kids, I think it should be changed. They should change the name to Antifa University. That's because, I mean, these kids are like a heartbeat away from Antifa, if they're not already. I bet that school has more Antifa per capita than any other school.
Many Antifa members were at the campus protests, and when you're seeing all of that happening on Red Square when it was happening live, you just get, it's just Mayday on the campus, and it just looks like the campus is overrun by this disaster. And what you really want is to see people going to their classes and enjoying and being there. And I'll just tell a little story and about something about Evergreen that I truly respected, that I had a great time being involved in, and it's a weekly community gathering that they call Common Bread, and what it encourages students to come to bring food, and everybody shares a dinner and gets to socialize and connect, and they might have certain activities like social bonding activities that bring these students together. And I found, and there's a video that promotes it that I produced on my channel, so you can get to know what my life was a little bit like when I was attending, and how I was getting involved in some of these community activities. And they, when you see that there are some good aspects about it, you really want those aspects to thrive, not all of this, violence and hatred and hostility among all the students. What you want to see is what it really means to be a strong community, and that's what Evergreen is about. Is having a good sense of community, but and while there are many things about it that I'll disagree with, I don't think it should come to, these, shenanigans like this.
Well, okay, so you were there when all of this was going down, and then did you make a decision to leave because of it?
Yeah, I when I realized it just didn't seem like a very safe place to be, is when I decided to just depart from there, and I just moved all my stuff back.
Was it a tough decision to make, or was it at that point you were so fed up you were ready to?
Yeah, it was a combination of things. It was a combination of my disinterest in the school subjects as well. And so when everything was happening, like when I realized it wasn't a safe place to be on campus, that was one reason. But it was also because the classes that I was getting were just not, they really were not grabbing my interest. So I wanted to find a school here in New York that I could get more involved in technical technical programs like video and television and graphic design. And I'm having a great time here in New York learning that stuff. But Evergreen was not able to provide me with a great learning experience. So that was a huge factor in my.
So it was the technical aspect. It wasn't because the classes were called like "you have a penis, that's why we hate you."
Right. Well, there definitely weren't any gender studies or lesbian dance theory or anything like that. But it was a lot of just a lot of classes with what you would call socially progressive values. They had a huge organic farming program. They wanted to get students involved in learning how to farm and to learn about natural sciences, and that was pretty great. But my media courses that I was taking, it was all kind of blended in with certain leftist ideology that I was trying to understand better, but I was like, I just want to get into making films and making projects. Why does it have to be all this focus on the media, and why they don't, for example, why they don't, why they're not respecting genders, why they're not respecting race. I mean, yeah, the mainstream, the media is insane, but I just want to be able to create my own projects. And that Evergreen had this class that was focused on those media studies, but I just wanted to get into making movies.
Well, of course they wanted to teach farming and stuff, because that's like the first step of when you're creating a cult.
Right.
You have to teach everybody how to farm so that they're self-sustaining, so that you can move everyone out in the woods, and then everyone just has to share the food. See, it's socialism, and it's a cult. It's a socialistic cult. You have to teach the people how to grow their own food, and then. Yeah, and what was the other thing? Oh, you said that was a joke you made about what, lesbian dance?
Yeah. Well, I never saw that there, but it's that's like
they need, because lesbians don't know how to dance. They need to that should be in the curriculum. Evergreen, if you're listening, start teaching lesbians how to dance. Go ahead.
So, right, and as far as this type of socialist attitude that was being developed at Evergreen, what I noticed was that it was just all about collective, and that it almost seemed like you couldn't really live your life there if you didn't have some part in the community, because you lived so close to everybody, and then it was all about like doing things together. And I don't see that as a bad thing, but I felt very marginalized when I had so many viewpoints and many different approaches to life that were considered unusual, that were probably considered unusual. And Evergreen might have a lot of unconventional people, but I was probably more unconventional than those unconventional students. So
yeah,
I couldn't really take a huge part in their community, and it wasn't something that that I just didn't do very well. I was just trying to focus on my classes, and I liked going to the woods. I loved the nature there. That was the most exciting part of it. But there's a lot of insidious aspects.
All right, so now you've it's fair to say you've walked away from liberalism. You're no longer a Democrat.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say that I'm I could call myself like a full-on conservative or a Republican. I'm definitely not a Republican, but currently I just like to observe everything that's going on from a human nature perspective, and to see that a lot of what's happening has to do with psychology and human nature. And Jordan Peterson definitely gave me some great insights into that field. So I'm definitely, and Jordan Peterson wouldn't exactly consider himself right wing, so I don't consider myself left wing or right wing anymore. I just like to watch the show.
All right, so you said I'm definitely not a Republican, and you said it like you were going to like throw up in your mouth when you said it. So what are Republicans doing wrong? What are you so mad at Republicans for?
Well, I'm not exactly mad at Republicans, but what I'm noticing is that there is corruption on both sides, and I I voted Republican in the election only because that's the only way that I would that's the only way that I would vote, because for me a libertarian vote or any kind of Green Party vote doesn't count, and of course I'm not going to vote Democrat. So
Yeah, you guys listen. I'm sorry, you guys stop voting for Jill Stein. Stop,
yeah,
stop it.
yeah.
You people who are it's so stupid. Stop it. Who was the other one? Jill Stein. Who was the guy? James
Gary Johnson.
Gary Johnson. They were. Stop it, you guys, when you're doing this.
Yeah, I mean, here in New York, Larry Sharp, the recent libertarian that ran. I mean, he was talking about how he was going to remove the state income tax and make it so that kids only have to go to school from K to 10. So you get rid of 11 and 12. So I tend to find these libertarian policies very entertaining, but they don't have any play. They're not going to affect the race at all. So back to what I was saying, that I just feel that our two-party system has been doing a lot more harm to this country than any good, and I'm hoping that in the future Trump and other people from both sides, we can take ideas from both sides and eliminate this two-party system. Probably more from conservative side. I can't find anything from any points from the left that I would say that are, actually make sense to me. But the whole point is that I want to eliminate. I hope that one day we can eliminate this two-party system.
Do you think that's realistic?
No, probably not. Probably not. But it's. I think it's the one thing that would, because we're a republic. We're not a democracy, and we need to recognize that this country is as a republic. It's not meant to have this two-party system between people that basically just people that want to preserve constitutional rights and then people that want to dismantle it. And our Constitution is really the greatest system ever devised by mankind, by the American people. It's given us freedom from the government, whereas freedom from the government, whereas socialism just gives you is there to provide all of these phantom rights that you think you might have, but it's just to have more government involvement. And I don't want to see that. I would probably define myself, as a classical liberal, that it's about individual liberties from the government, and that the Constitution is the greatest document that's given us those liberties.
Do you think we should have 0 parties, 1 party, or many parties?
I feel that it should be a small government that uses the Constitution as a means to govern people. And I just don't see having this. I would say it would just be one party. It would be one party, and it wouldn't go beyond that. And I don't know what you would call it though.
No one can even agree on what the Constitution means.
Right, and it's because facts are becoming extremely controversial, and what's in the Constitution is becoming extremely controversial. And I hope we recognize that those have great values, and not everybody's going to agree on it. And you might say that's why it's not realistic. But if I could consider an ideal world where I would be pretty happy and pretty stress-free, is when you don't have all of this fighting and all of this corruption going on between both parties.
Could I ask you your opinions on some hot button social issues, or would you rather not? I'll respect if you don't want to.
No, please, yeah.
What do you think about abortion?
So abortion, I value a child's life to such a great extent that I would never. After seeing a video of an abortion, I would never want to see such a horrific and disturbing thing to ever happen to a future child of mine. And my stepmother is about 8 weeks pregnant, and after I decided to become pro-life, I mean, how could I ever change my opinion about that? And what I've seen abortion just abortion has become more about women's reproductive rights, and they don't take into consideration the value of a child's life, that it's become this feminist women's rights movement that just seeks to preserve, that women have choices, and that, and I was talking to somebody from Planned Parenthood recently, and I said that, she was saying that all lives are important, not just a child's life. Well, if you say that all lives are important, then why do we have this genocide of over 17 million children? And where most of these women that are getting abortions, they do it purely out of inconvenience. And it's this fear that you can't take on the challenge of becoming a parent. And we need to accept that any challenge that comes to us, like having a child that requires an enormous amount of responsibility, we need to embrace that challenge.
Okay, Dylan, two more. And no monologues, just a quick answer on both.
Sure.
Second Amendment.
So Second Amendment, I am definitely in support of the right to bear arms.
Okay. And gay marriage.
Gay marriage, full support.
Okay. Just curious.
Yeah.
I was no reason other than these are some of the things that are contested when people talk about Constitution. Where in the Constitution does it say this? Where in the Constitution does it say that? And I think it's a tricky situation trying to base a one system government on the Constitution. Interesting idea. I'm not totally shooting it down, but I mean, we hate each other's guts now. If we're all expected to agree on what the Constitution means, we're going to need that Second Amendment, because we're all going to be, yeah. Yes. All right. So, Dylan, we're going to wrap things up. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up? How can people find you on social media? How can they find you on YouTube? What do you got going on?
So you can find my YouTube channel by just typing Dylan Roth, and it's the first channel that comes up. And you can follow me on Twitter at Dylan Roth 15. I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me. It's so exciting to be able to contribute something great here, and to be able to talk with people, about what it means to have freedom and to be an American. And I think that we need to stop confusing conservatism with this idea of like being a rich white male, and that really what it comes down to is just being American. And it's so nice to be able to talk to people that are open to having a civil conversations.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's more poor than me. I'm a white man, but I'm a conservative and I ain't got no money. So
right. Yeah.
I just shattered another ceiling right there. Dylan, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. And you and I are going to have to go for a coffee because we're both New Yorkers, and we're both the struggle is real. I know you know the struggle. We're probably two of the most hated people in the city, especially after tonight. Enjoy the newfound hatred you're going to be receiving. And and I thank you for coming on the show tonight. It was great talking with you, Dylan. Thank you.
It's my pleasure, Brandon, and I wish you all the best.
We'll stay in touch. Thank you.
Sounds great.
Thank you. All right. Cool. Well, so that was tonight's show about liberalism and academia, at least one of them. I'm sure we'll be doing many shows on this subject. And actually, several weeks ago, I said I was going to do a show about identity politics, and I totally forgot to do it. So that'll have to be coming up too. Now, I want to let you all know right now, a week from now, actually this coming Friday, I'm speaking at the American Priority Conference. The conference is Thursday through Sunday in Washington, D.C. So there's a very good chance that we will not be doing a show next Sunday. I just want to give you guys a heads up. We might. Maybe we'll figure out some crazy, fancy, schmancy way to make something happen. That's not in my head right now at this moment. But I'll let you know throughout the week. I'll give you guys a heads up on what's going on. I just want you to know if there's not a show next week, that's the reason why. I'm going to be in D.C. speaking at the American Priority Conference. And I'm leaving tomorrow for Denver, where I'm going to meet my friend Dinesh D'Souza, and we're going to be speaking. So I'm going to be doing a lot of this all of next week. Blah, 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 blah. And I will not be in New York, but maybe we'll try to get something out to you guys anyway. James and I will talk. We'll figure something out. If not, you'll see us 2 weeks from tonight right here. And with that, I'm going to log off. Thank you all so much for watching. James, thank you for producing tonight. You did a really good job. You're welcome. You're welcome. James and I had a good show tonight. All right, everybody. This is Brandon Strock letting you know that I'm walking away, and I'm encouraging all of you to do the same. Walk away. Good night.